there is spiritual energy resources available to us, we can do immense work calmly, silently, without fuss. Fussy work is inefficient work. Calm, silent work is true work. That calmness comes by deepening our spiritual awareness and drawing upon the resources for the Atman that is behind every one of us. That is why Krishna defines yoga as efficiency in work. Yoga, karmasu, kaushalam. What a beautiful idea. Carrying heavy responsibilities, yet everything in a spirit of calmness, gentleness, infinite concern for man, with a smile on one's lips. That is yoga. That is perfection in life and action. This is expounded by this very chapter in the remaining 18 or 19 verses as Sthita Prajna, the man of steady wisdom. It is a wonderful idea how to become steady in this unsteady world. Just like the anvil in the blacksmith shop, so many things are shaped there. It remains absolutely steady and motionless. Can man develop this wonderful capacity? Yes, says the Gita. Everyone can develop this great capacity. That is why spirituality is a science and a technique. Yoga means that spirituality, not for the Hindu, not for the Muslim, not for the Christian, for any separate sect, but for every human being. Whether you are a Democrat or a communist or a Marxist, what does it matter? Everyone wants to realize possibilities hidden within oneself. That's why in the language of the late Sir Julian Huxley, when he said, we need a new science today. And what is that? The science of human possibilities. Exactly, Krishna expounds a science of human possibilities in this great book. How many possibilities are lying hidden in every human being? Try to bring them out, unfold them. The science and technique of unfolding the entire possibilities hidden within man is yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna had said in verse 53 that reason becomes steady when it is established in the self, and then man attains true yoga. This gave Arjuna an opportunity to ask a question. That becomes the topic of verse 54, and Krishna's answers to this question, the topic of the remaining verses of this second chapter. So Arjuna asked, Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha, samadhistasya keshava, Sthidadhi kim prabhasheta, kim asita, vrajeta kim. What, O Keshava, another name of Krishna, is the description of the man of steady wisdom, merged in samadhi, established in the Atman. How, on the other hand, does the man of steady wisdom speak? How does he sit? How does he walk? Meaning thereby, what is the nature of a man of steady wisdom? How does he function in this world? That is a very important question, as expressed by Jesus, by their fruits ye shall know them. If there is such a spiritual realization, we shall find it out from the conduct and behavior that issues from that realization. And Krishna answers, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. The very first statement he makes in answer to this question is, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyev atmana tushta sthita prajnas tadochyate. When a man completely casts away, O Partha, all the desires of the mind, satisfied in the self alone by the self, then he is said to be one of steady wisdom. Shankara defines this shloka and the succeeding shlokas or verses as the statement of the end to be sought and the means to be employed. And he says in this commentary, Sarvatraiva hi adhyatma shastre kritartha lakshanani yani tanyeva sadhanani upadishyante yatna sadhyatvad. In this science of spirituality, whatever is the end sought to be achieved is also the means, because a means which is not true to the end cannot achieve the end itself. If the end is purity, means also is purity. If the end is truth, means also is truth. We can't achieve truth through falsehood. We can't achieve purity through impurity. These are very beautiful statements, the unity of ends and means. And so he said, when a man completely casts away all the desires of the heart, then what happens to him? Shankaracharya says, this itself is not a great achievement. The table and the chair have no desires at heart at all. Man becomes absolutely dry when all the desires are cast away. And so, the second line is added, Atmanyeva Atmana Tushtaha. He has found a new focus of joy, a new focus of fulfillment, namely the infinite self. What can compare with this infinite self? Anything in this world, any pleasure, any comfort, any joy, how can they compare with this infinite joy of God that is hidden in all of us? Therefore, when we cast away something external, it is with a view to realizing our own true nature, the divine that is in our hearts. So, Atmanyeva Atmana Tushtaha. When he becomes filled with joy in the experience of the Atman, the infinite, then only a man is said to be a man of steady wisdom. First is negative, second is positive. We give up something smaller to achieve something bigger. Mere giving up has no meaning at all. It is very negative. So that search for God makes us give up other things easily, spontaneously. There is not even a sense of sacrifice, something being pulled out of us. It is a natural growth. Just like a baby, when it is very young, it plays with toys, fully attached to toys. When it is about 3 or 4 years old, it is able to cast away toys because a new joy has come, joy of knowledge, joy of seeking knowledge. So he wants books, it wants to go to school. In this way, there is a natural growth of man from smaller to higher things, from finite to infinite reality. It is this that is emphasized in this verse, Prajahati yada kaman. All the cravings and desires of the heart for organic pleasure, these things we are able to forsake when we know that beyond it is something higher, something more natural to us, our own infinite nature. That's the supreme attitude in Vedanta. It doesn't want men to be killjoys. There must be joy, but the joys vary. The things that bring us joy vary, just like the toys we give up because there is knowledge. Even this secular knowledge we give up when there is knowledge of God, knowledge of something still higher. In this way, there is a growth of man from finitude to infinitude, from creatureliness to something like blessedness. So in the next sloka, he says, Dukkhesh anudvignamanaha sukhesh vigataspruha vitaraga bhayakrodha stitathir muniruchyate. He whose mind is not shaken by adversity, by failure, who does not hanker after pleasures, who has become free from all attachment, fear and anger, is indeed the Muni or the sage of steady wisdom. That's the means to achieve steady wisdom. That's also the characteristic of steady wisdom. Mind not shaken by adversity. Small people can be easily shaken. Strong people are not. An ordinary tree without much rooting in the earth, a slight wind makes it fall down. If it is properly rooted, even a strong wind only strengthens that tree. There is such a thing as a rooting of man in his own infinite nature. There alone you get real character, so that he becomes free from attachment, fear and anger. These are the three emotions that disturb the human mind, takes it away from truth. Even in scientific research, the mind must be free from attachments, fear and anger. Then only the mind is free to pursue truth for its own sake. And in spiritual life, it is supreme. In many places in the Gita, these three are always taken together. Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Freedom from attachment, anger, fear. Three disturbing emotions in the human mind, taking us away from the path of righteousness, from the path of duty, from the path of truth. This must be overcome. Then the mind becomes steady, says Krishna. Yas sarvatra nabhisneha Tat